If you're a Rotary or import drag racing fan, this car might be high up on your list of favorites from way back in the day. An 800 horsepower two-rotor Rx7. This car has seen the cover of magazines, and there are grainy YouTube videos of it all over the place. You even got to see it on your favorite cable TV racing series. It ran some pretty respectable times in between grenading engines, and the grenading of engines is what got it to this point, passing through the hands of several owners over the last decade, never to see anything more than the dark corner of a garage. In this video is a very young me and an even younger brother of mine watching this car race. So to say that I want to see it back on the road is very much of an understatement. To accomplish that, I'm going to need the help of someone that knows these engines through and through. Mike Vargas of Angel Motorsports is the man that's going to rebuild and refresh this engine. I'm using the Rotary engine that came in my now K20 swapped Rx7. I was told this was a 5,000 mile reman engine, but once we dove into it, that doesn't appear to be the case. I have a full video on the engine teardown on my side channel that is linked down in the description below. The important thing is we have all the parts that we need to rebuild this engine. And while Mike goes through and rebuilds this 13B, I have plenty to keep me busy at the shop with the chassis. Some carbon doors, carbon mirrors, and a different carbon fiber hood. None of this is necessary, but I do think that changing this car's look a little bit is only going to help to change its fortune. This car's always kind of been a weird combination of street and drag car. Now that it's mine, I'm going to be taking it more towards the drag car side of things, and we're going to be taking all the street out of it. Won't be needing these. Definitely not. Nope. No. All right, so things might have got a little bit out of hand, but it's for two reasons. Number one, we're going to paint this engine bay. It's just completely tore up. We have some holes to fill. We're not going to go as crazy as I did on my LS car, but we're going to clean this up so it matches the exterior of the car. And we have to fix this absolute disaster. I know at some point this car was running some sort of sequential, I think, Liberty type 4-speed transmission in order to put the power to the ground, but that hack job of a trans tunnel that someone did on that car, there's really just no excuse for it. But that's why this is here. Looks like something that should be on one of Carrington's junk Mopars.
No, that's never been on a fast car, so that doesn't have anything to do with Mopars, you know.
Slow. After several rounds of trimming and a whole lot of metal prep, I think that I have this thing exactly how I want it to fit. Several hours later, we have what is a somewhat presentable but should be fully functional, pretty much OEM trans tunnel. Essentially, the easiest way to do this was to go ahead and go through and more or less kind of stitch weld it in place, but you can see this is our overlapped layer from the inside. So we actually have two layers up here in the shifter opening. There's two layers welded together. So I think what we have here should be very, very strong. We're going to go ahead, put some self-etching primer over it, and then some seam sealer, and it should hopefully be as presentable as possible for an area of the car where the only spot you're going to see it is looking at the driver's feet. So another area I was not overly happy about on this car is this headlight bucket. They did have an excuse for it. Normally when you do non-pop-up headlights, you have to cut out some of the bucket, but this one had an intake duct that ran over to the turbo. This, at least, they did a little bit of a cleaner job on, but I think I can accomplish that intake duct for the turbo that's going to go on this car and still have the factory appearing brace here on the top section for the engine bay. You've probably figured out by now that around here we mess with a little bit of everything. Same can be said for today's video sponsor, Copart. Now, while you know Copart for insurance auction wrecks, there's so much more available at their lots. Take this beautiful C6 Z06 for example. Clean title with not a lick of accident damage in sight. But obviously we bought it for other reasons. Maybe you need some equipment for your business, or a trailer to haul around your favorite toy, or even still something for your latest hobby. The point is, you can find it at Copart. Because you're watching our channel, that means that you get to use our promo code to save on your registration. So follow the link down in the description below, head on over to Copart and start bidding. Because this is a race car, we definitely won't be needing power steering. So we're gonna go through and properly manual delete one of the FD racks. Like I'm a professional or something.
That went significantly better than I expected.
This is easily one of the messiest jobs that you will ever do on a car, but the basic gist of it is that you are removing the seals that separate the fluid for the power steering. When you do that, it frees up the operation, gives you a much, much better feel. The only thing additional we have to do is go ahead and weld the actual input quill here, and then we'll go ahead and weld up all the holes and clean this rack up and get it back in the car. The CYM is back from paint. The team over at Top Coat Garage did an excellent job on another project for us. Seeing this engine bay all in one color is just absolutely beautiful. Got the headlight cover and then what is ultimately going to be our intake duct painted to match. Maybe the most important part is that trans tunnel all fixed up and painted to match. You can hardly even tell what it looked like before. Tim is back here already chipping away at the wiring, and what I'm going to get started on is something that's going to be drawing a lot of power back here. We're going with this beautiful radium in-tank surge tank setup. There's going to be an additional lift pump that is going to feed the surge, which has 3 Walboro 450s inside of it. Now, I got lucky with this car that it had a tank, but it had absolutely nothing else. There was no fuel pump hanger in it, so this was left open to the elements for who knows how long. There's no real visible rust or anything that could potentially pop up to a tank that was exposed to the elements, but this thing is kind of dirty inside, which means we need to flush it out before we install that pump. Look at all of the junk that was in this thing. You just see how murky it is aside from those big giant particles. We got a little bit more to do. We'll flush this a couple times and then we can go ahead and get the pump installed and get it put in the car. Our surge pump is hooked up both for flow and the electronics. This plug here is going to be for the fuel level sender, which I don't have. Normally it would mount right here. We're going to go ahead and get this installed without it on this car, and I'll probably regret that decision, but my justification is this is a race car and it should be relatively easy to keep track of the fuel. For the rest of the rear end setup on this car, we have a combination of parts primarily from Drive Shaft Shop and from Sickie. And I'm going to be running the factory rear differential, which in this day and age is maybe not the best choice, but basically my plan of attack is that we are going to beef up everything as much as possible and then also get the differential as solid mounted as possible. That combination should hopefully give us enough strength to handle the power, we have some additional bracing for this at the rear end that isn't designed to work with the brace that we have at the front there. Once we get everything in, we're probably going to do a little bit of cut and welding to get this thing as locked down as possible. Before we do any of that, though, our engine is fresh back from Angel Motorsports. Mr. Vargas did an absolutely beautiful job on this. Mother Nature tested me a little bit on the way home, but it's here safe and sound. We can finally get an engine put back into this chassis after so many years. We do have to take a quick minute to admire the handiwork here, though. This is a semi-peripheral ported engine, so the housings were sent out to have this work done, and then the irons were ported in-house by Mr. Vargas himself. You can just see the massive amount of increased airflow that this engine's going to have. The first big part to go on is going to be this intake manifold from South Coast Rotary. It is the matching semi P-port manifold. You can see the additional runners that are plumbed in, and because of that, we also need additional injectors. This is a 6 injector setup. This thing requires an absolutely massive amount of fuel, and for anyone that hasn't seen a rotary spark plug before, pretty weird looking, huh? Well, here is our finished product. I think that this is just about everything that we could possibly do to try and keep this factory rear differential in one piece. And, well, if we manage to break this, then it just wasn't meant to be at this power level for an OEM diff. If you can kind of keep coming in and coming down at the same rate, if that makes any sense.
You need to go down.
Yeah, you're good. The angle's good.
Bolt in it?
You're good right there. You're good. You're in.
You look pretty comfortable there.
Nope.
Well, he told me earlier he loves lying on the ground. What are you talking about?
We might be here for a minute, boys.
I thought that rotary engines, the fact that they're pretty small, should be easier.
Easier, yes. You got this nicely painted engine bay, you got this Jumbotron transmission, you know.
Jumbotron. Okay.
You know.
Your side needs to drop down considerably.
And go backwards.
Alex's side is actually relatively close to its height.
The problem is that we're going to have chain contact before we have bolt innage.
It's actually like falling into place.
Yeah, it all looks fine here. Oh, so close. So close. I thought that putting the right engine back into this chassis would be the easy route. It turns out it's kind of a pain in the butt, but we got 1 out of the 3 mounts in place, so it's pretty much good.
1 out of 3 is failing grade.
Is it?
Yeah, 1 out of 3 is failing. 30%? 1 out of 3?
Basically.
Yeah, it's 30. That's failing grade.
That's passing at Scrap Life Garage.
Wouldn't have this problem with the Hellcat engine. Go in there, no problem.
Wow.
Well, it wrestled us a little bit, but it is in now. Seeing this car with a rotary engine back in the engine bay is definitely a rewarding sight. It's been a long, long time since I have had a look at one of these. Every time I get one of these cars, I swap it, I forget how much space there is in this engine bay. And luckily, right about over here, we have something pretty huge that's going to take up a lot of real estate. Well, I told myself that I was going to leave these factory wheels on this car until it got back from fabrication, and, well, I just can't stand to see it looking all pathetic on them anymore, and so I give you what will ultimately be the final look of this car. We have some serious weight to add to the front end, which will bring that down a little bit, but this is pretty much what she is going to look like from this point onward, and you might recognize these wheels from another race car here around the shop. We got a little bit bigger tire here in the back. These are basically 27-inch Mickey Thompsons, and hopefully they'll do the trick as far as traction goes. But for now, we need to get this thing off the fabrication, and then we'll finish it up when it gets back. So for the CYM project, I'm doing things a little bit differently. I'm back down here in Virginia at Angel Motorsports, and my normal fabricator, Josh, he literally has the K20 car as I am speaking right now. He's only one man. He can only be in one spot at a time. This is Daniel. His business is Kaiju Fab. He does all of the in-house fabrication along with Mr. Vargas over here, and he's worked up something very, very special in the CYM here. Oh, it does look better in person. Oh, dude, it looks so good.
It's all compact, beefy. Looks like a race car.
Oh my goodness, it looks so good. I've seen pictures of this. Pictures don't do it justice. So much better in person. Normally, I'm not one for the hood exit exhaust, but the second that Daniel mentioned it, it was 100% his idea, and I am not regretting letting him go ahead and do that.
Oh, yeah.
Man, look at the size of those runners coming out of each rotor. This is a beefy manifold. You weren't kidding. Beefy is the word for it, like 100%. So what was the worst part of the whole thing? What gave you the most trouble?
I would say the hood exit, 'cause I wanted to get it in the exact right spot out that vent for you. So that combined with getting the turbo placement correctly with the manifold. So I just want to make sure everything fit nicely. It was all compact with the big turbo, the big manifold, and getting that beautiful hood exit exactly where we wanted it.
And you absolutely nailed it. It is like perfectly centered right in the spot that we discussed. From the start, Daniel and I, we had like a vibe on this project. We were bouncing ideas back and forth, ran into a couple little roadblocks, nothing significant, but each time the solution that we came up with ended up putting us in a better spot. And it came out absolutely awesome. There's still a decent amount of work to do though, and Tim's gonna have a lot of time wiring this thing.
Hopefully it all works.
For the Rotary, we didn't have an off-the-shelf wire harness to use, so Tim has literally been sitting at that bench for, I don't know, what, 48 hours now, building this, and it came out shockingly good.
Shockingly. Yeah, it came out great. Okay, all right, you're about to get to some plugs here. Go ahead, you can keep going. We're almost to the grommet. Here we go. So these are our injectors right here. Those will go under the manifold. Our coil harness and grounds for our coil. Those will also go under the manifold. This is fuel pressure, this is oil pressure, ethanol content, crank sensor, boost controller, IAT.
Okay, so pretty much everything that you have there has to go through the middle.
Not necessarily. So these do. These are all of our fuel injectors. Just to keep things nice and organized, Tim has these labeled as secondary and primary injectors for each rotor, number 1 and number 2. We're running one single primary, which is going to be a 1700cc ID injector, and then we have a pair of 2600cc secondary injectors for each rotor.
It's a whole lot easier with all that space on the bench, isn't it?
Yes, significantly easier. How do you expect me to work under these conditions?
Rotaries are fun, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that's slightly unique about the Rotaries, as you look past my very temporary oil feed line, is the coils. There are 2 spark plugs per cylinder, kind of just like those stupid Mopars that Carrington loves. But obviously, the triggering on these is a little bit different than your standard engine where you have 1 smart coil per cylinder. One of the last pieces mechanically that we need to take care of is the engine oil cooler. I once again turn to improve racing. I think that from the engine coolant side, with both the water to air intercooler and then also the radiator, I think we're in pretty good shape since Rotaries are known for their high engine temperatures. This should do a great job of keeping the oil as cool as possible. It comes with this awesome mount bracket with the isolating rubber shims also. Have a nice flat surface under the headlight where this can bolt to. I think we can go ahead and put this in, and then we'll get the lines made, and we'll be all set.
something hilarious about putting a Hot Rod Classic motor oil into this thing, but this was the only non-synthetic 20W50 that I could find.
I'm a little worried about how close this wiring harness is to the exhaust. You think we have a good heat shield solution we can put here?
Think that'll work? And that, I think, came out pretty darn good, considering we just borrowed it off another car and did some minor modification to it. Running the water-to-air intercooler system on this car allows us to utilize an ice box. This is just an off-the-shelf Mishimoto unit that I picked up, and it's designed to run an internal pump, which you can see the mount right there for. And I'm going to use this giant Aeromotive external. Fernando used this on his 350Z. The only thing that I had to do was get the pickup modified. Because we can't get in there to protect the pickup from any ice pieces that are going to get into it, I went ahead and built kind of a sump setup like you would see in an oil pan. That way we won't have to worry about sucking up any ice cubes. It'll just be fresh, cold water that's going to be coming into this thing. I have a nice convenient spot to mount this because we're not going to be running a passenger seat. So we're going to utilize this planted seat bracket that previously secured the passenger seat. I've already modified it to go ahead and accept the ice box. And then for the pump mount, I am going to repurpose one of these improved racing oil cooler brackets that I showed you earlier. We just have a hole to drill in the chassis right there. Boom. While Tim's loading the base map on this thing, I'm going to do something with an Rx7 that I've never done before. We're running just normal pump gas E85, but this here is where the difference comes in because we are going to be premixing this rotary setup. So that little block off plate way down past my flashlight is for what is called the oil metering pump. On the factory 13B REW, that oil metering pump picks up actual engine oil and injects it into the rotor housing. Now, there's two problems with that. Number one, the lines are extremely brittle and known to break, and though there are upgrades, it's always an issue. And number two, the engine oil is not specifically designed to mix with gasoline like a premix is. So for a high horsepower rotary, this is definitely the way to go. I was advised by Mr. Vargas that we're going to be looking to mix 2 to 3 ounces of premix for every gallon of fuel that we put into this. We have about 5 gallons of E85, so we're going to go ahead and put about 15 ounces of premix into this thing.
That one.
Yeah, 90 mil. That should be it.
I'm full throttle.
Let go. Again. Yeah, that's it. It sounds like it's doing it now. All right, go for fuel injectors.
Primary number 1. Yeah.
Yeah, primary number 2, I feel. Boost controller. Yep. Fans. Again for me. Yep. Oh, I think we got some return.
Well, I'm watching the turn. Looks like Niagara Falls in there.
Prime the fuel system.
Increase pressure.
Fuel pressure increase.
Good.
I
No leaks?
don't see any leaks.
Second. It's got like a rumble to it.
Hit that third pump.
Third.
All right, all the pumps appear to be working.
Your wiring guy did a great job.
I think it's the fuel pump installer did a great job.
Debatable. Hey, Cody. Oh, I'm living the dream, man. How are you doing?
That sounded nuts. Is it building oil pressure? Mm-hmm. I have to be the one to ask if we have a cam crank sync.
You do or I do?
I'm just asking if we have one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You ready?
Ready as I'm ever gonna be. Almost.
Let's try again or no? I'm still on the throttle a little bit, keeping it running.
Well, that's the life cycle of our rotary.
That's pretty cool.
She's done? That's
Sounds
it?
great.
It's done. It's done. Apex seal time.
In typical fashion, we appear to not be getting charged from the alternator, which is kind of just how we do things around here. And don't tell me how it's possible, but the Rotary seems to be the only car we've started this year that doesn't have some sort of leak on the first start.
I was zeroed out on the timing light, and we got to 15 degrees on the crank as you were adding to ignition to the preset. Adjust it literally tells you on the screen, adjust calibration until you match 15 degrees at the timing light. All right, go ahead, start it.
I swear Mother Nature hates rotaries. Every time I've tried to do something with this car, it rains. First drive, no, it rains. You door. Whore. You can't talk shit about Eric, he's not here.
Oh, that was more there.
It literally just slipped.
Just scratch it.
Break it.
God damn, dude.
Technical term.
Technical term. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta go to school with that.
Oh, technical team technical term.
New Tim text.
No, this is another section. Team technical tech.
Tim's
team-
technical term.
Something like that.
Second time.
Team tip technical term.
If I slide it back,
Tim's technical term.
No, team's technical term.
Too much of a tongue twister, dude.
It's tim. I love it, right?
Today, Junior.
Because normally for was that LS?
LS,
LS
you know,
swap.
this, the
Repurposed
only LS
for-
thing that should be in our Rx7, it might be just the radiator.
Just the radiator.
That's it, you know.
No, it's an electrical pun, you know? Shockingly good. Yeah, come on now.
not bad, not bad.
Don't mind me if I'm a little like, oh god. Oh god. Oh god.
Oh, good.
Oh, it's a good thing it's tough, look. Oh, it sucks in here. Oh. 2 out of 3 is 66%. That's a D. D's get degrees these days. Get the nozzle out of the end of it. Don't
God,
you
how
dare
much-
hit that
Yeah, I was
thing.
gonna say how much I want to spray you right now. Turn around, Terry. Get out of here. Turn around, Terry.
Oh man, I just put a big old sweat smear right on your phone. Look at your phone screen.
Someone's gonna watch your video this time around, and they're gonna see the taskbar at the bottom now. somebody on one of our on the last video mentioned in a comment, what monster had his taskbar at the top.
You don't.
No drinks on the job.
No drinks on the job. Got it.
See if I can hit this idiot with a pine cone.
Somebody one time said me, Rotary engines is not just an engine, it's a lifestyle.
Clear down there?
And I'm like, yeah.
I want to make sure.
For all the fuel and oil that you have to spend on it.